The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences. I know we're usually talking about kids' cartoons and stuff, but there's going to be naughty language. Anyway, listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, your weekly home for animation reviews and discussions.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Ink and Paint Club podcast. And as always, I am your host, JD, and with me is my best friend in the whole wide world, Mr. Kyle.
It's me, I'm the best friend in the whole world. Better than anybody else.
Yeah, you fuckers got some competition. So anyway, on this week's episode, we're going to be talking about the Animal Crossing movie from like 2005. Mostly because I wanted an excuse to talk about this movie anyway, but the Animal Crossing mobile game Pocket Camp should actually be out by the time this episode goes up. So now's as good a time as any, I guess.
How
topical. And I'm nothing if not topical. But, so yeah. I've seen this movie probably at least 3 times now. I watch it every couple of years because I feel it's a nice, cozy little movie. God. But, Kyle, this was your first time watching it, wasn't it?
It sure was.
And in 3 words or less, how did you feel about this movie?
It alright.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be you didn't like it.
It was okay.
All right, I'll take that. So anyway, basically the Animal Crossing movie is almost exactly what you would expect it to be, in the sense that it follows a generic girl character, meant to represent your character in the game, moves to a new town, gets a job, gets a house, makes friends, does stupid hobby stuff around town, and aliens show up at some point. No part was so fucking random. But yeah, it really was. It's a nice little slice of life movie.
So JD sent me a copy of this movie on Kiss Anime, and Kiss Anime wanted me to turn my pop-up blocker off, and I laughed and was like, fuck you, buddy. So I found a fan dub of it, so me and JD watched 2 different
I watched it
completely.
I watched it completely in Japanese, and Kyle watched it in some English version.
I watched it in some devil language. English or something.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah. Kyle, why don't you elaborate on your feelings about this movie?
It's just okay. It was like when I saw Totoro. It was just no fucking plot. Just things happen.
I mean, yeah.
Strung together. There's your movie.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of... I've watched this movie before, and I kind of see where you're coming from now, watching it again, like the other day, where it's a cute movie. It's very cozy. It's like, but you're right. There's like 0 plot to this movie, and it just feels like a string of shorts.
Yeah, but it fits the nature of the game, because there's no plot in the game either.
Right. And you and I were talking before we were recording, and what I was kind of noticing this time around is that, like, if you're not a fan of Animal Crossing, I'll just tell you straight up that this movie's going to be confusing if you decide to watch it, because a lot of what goes on really depends on you knowing how Animal Crossing works. Because, like...
Well, even in the beginning, I'm like, what the fuck's this ninja about? And then I was like, oh...
Right. So, like... Okay, so the beginning of the movie... first of all, this movie came out, I think, in 2005, like a year after Wild World So this movie is completely based on Animal Crossing Wild World, which I still maintain I think might be my favorite. It's kind of between that and New Leaf, because New Leaf, kind of ironed out a lot of kinks in the franchise. But so this movie starts out, the girl is in the back of Cappen's taxi going to the new town. They pull right up to town hall, does the weird camera shift to show off town hall. You go meet Pelly and Tortimer, all that. It's just like a string of events that, were you playing an Animal Crossing game, wouldn't phase you, but when you see it laid out as like a plot in a movie, it seems like really kind of like it's just a series of things happening.
I was like, oh boy, I can't wait to see Isabel.
She didn't exist yet.
Yeah, it was like, oh, that's what it is. Okay.
But so one of the weird things I noticed this time around is that so she goes, the main character which I thought was so stupid, that like the girl's name is I and the boy's name is you.
It's like AEIOU.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of like repeated phrases in this movie, and I'm sure we'll get to a few of them. But so like she goes to the post office like you do, and then Pelly tells her like, okay, you got to go meet Tom Nook because he's your landlord. And then she goes to meet Tom Nook, which is it's whatever. But I thought it was weird that in the movie Tom Nook basically puts a job on her. It's like, all right, you're just doing this, but the only reason he makes you work in the game is because you can't pay him for the house you live in.
Yeah, that wasn't really explained in the movie, was
it? It was just weird, because she walks up and is like, hey, you're my landlord. He's like, all right, here, go make these deliveries for me. It's a good way to meet people. And I'm like, okay, that's, I guess. I mean, she doesn't have to do that, but it's like, it felt, in the game, it feels more like it's a thing you have to do because it's like, you owe him money. But there's like never a mention of like how much she owes him for her house. I don't even
think they show her house, but there's like a little part.
I mean,
where they show her making up her house.
Yeah, there's a few scenes of her actually in her house. But yeah, there's like really no mention of like other than the fact that Tom Nook is technically her landlord, there's no mention of like, her having to repay back her loan and stuff like that. But yeah, so after that, she goes through the whole town meeting all the characters. She meets Gracie the elephant and what's the cat's name?
Rosie?
I think it's Rosie. The blue cat. The one that's not Rover. And it's really weird because I want to know how they decided on which villagers they were going to use. Because obviously you got like the fan favorites like Bianca and Apollo. And I'm like, so like what made them want to use like Alfonso and Rosie and Gracie?
They probably just started the game up and that was it. And it was Margie the elephant.
Margie, I'm sorry.
Excuse the fuck out of me.
Who's Gracie then? Who's Gracie?
That giraffe?
That's right. I'm sorry, everybody. And here I say that I'm a fan of Animal Crossing and I can't even get these people's names right. I know, I suck. But yeah, so I'm wondering like what the process of selecting the villagers were. It was like, did Japan hold like a popularity contest and that's the ones that made it in? Or
they just started the game over and were like, all right, this is what we got.
I mean, maybe.
Made me laugh because the penguin was one of my first villagers when I had Wild World.
Nice.
Who's that guy?
Yeah. I honestly don't remember what my...
said, who is he?
I don't know. I never had him.
Oh,
do you know?
I want to call him Rocco, but I'm 100% sure it's not that, because that's probably from the penguin and the pebble.
Right.
His name's Hopper.
Okay.
Hopper the penguin.
All right.
And then it was Alfonso the alligator, which had a really cute voice and The fan dub.
I'll have to rewatch the fan dub. But that's the one thing that really threw me off about watching this in Japanese is that all of the names are different in Japanese. So like Margie is Sally in Japanese, and like I think that's Rosie is Bouquet in Japanese. So and Alfonso has some different name. I forget what they called him. So it was really kind of weird when they're like referencing these characters that I kind of sort of know, and they're calling them by different names. I'm like, what? Who is this again? And whatever. But yeah, the movie kind of picks up once the male character is introduced. So the boy is friends with Alfonso the alligator and whatever, and they just kind of have dumb competitions that they run through town doing.
I love that though. The whole thing with digging pitfall seeds was the best.
That's the thing. Like, there's a lot of moments in this that are really funny, and they're like enjoyable little vignettes of like little moments in Animal Crossing that you can do. Like they show like you say, Kyle, they show like you can put down pitfalls and stuff, and the penguin is always fishing, and the boy and Alfonso are always like trying to catch bugs and fossil hunting and stuff. And obviously Margie is a fashion person, so she's always going to the Able sisters and showing off her designs to them to make into clothes. So I mean, there's like pretty much every major element of Animal Crossing, up into the Wild World era of things, I mean, is represented here.
Kind of tuned out, but why was Wendell in her house?
I don't remember. I think he just kind of came in, and that's the thing. So when in the game, I feel like a lot of the things that people say to you are really nonsensical. Outside of like, it's obviously pre-programmed dialogue. So it's like when they ask you a really random question or like spout off some like weird philosophical thing, it like, okay, that's just a weird quirk this character has that, was pre-written for them. But they do it in this movie, and it's really kind of weird the way they do it. Because like the first time that the girl character meets Alfonso, he asks, what was he asking? He was asking like 2 different kinds of food that she likes, and it's just like,
oh yeah,
it's like that's a really random thing. Like, there's no like, hi, who are you or whatever. And it's like she walks up and it's like, hi, what's your favorite whatever. And it's like, that's a really random question to ask someone you just met.
It only happened twice though. I was like,
well,
oh, that's
and then like
funny.
the other instance that I'm thinking of is that that otter character that you can give fish to is just standing on the shore not doing anything, and then Tortimer walks up to him. The otter guy spouts off a piece of like weird philosophical shit, jumps into the ocean, and goes away. You never see him again.
Yeah,
he just does that, and it's like, like again, like in the context of a video game, like it's fine, but like in the sense of like a story with a plot in a movie, it's just like very random the way their world works. And like you're just expected to just go with it. I don't know. I did like the whole part where they go because like the boy character and Alfonso are fossil hunting, and they're trying to find like helix shell fossils or whatever, and Rosie's like, oh yeah, I know this cave with a bunch of them, and then they go on a little pirate adventure into a cave.
That was pretty fun.
I like that. So
I was just like, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, you never go into a cave, and that's the one thing. That's like the one thing of the whole movie that like kind of takes you out of it, because it's like none of this doesn't happen. But I mean, this movie is basically just like a year in the life of Animal Crossing. So like, I gets there in the spring, and it pretty much takes you all the way up to the winter festival. So I mean, and it was nice because, you get to see Brewster you get to go down to the Roost, coffee shop, which I thought was nice. I like the summer festival because you get to see like KK Slider perform.
He had a cool voice.
Yeah, I'm interested.
But you wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know. I just know it's very strange the way they chose to do it though, because like he has an actual KK Slider has an actual speaking voice, but when he plays the song for the crowd, it goes back to his weird game voice. And it's just very strange.
Oh, and in the fan dub, that voice shit was playing in the background as he was singing.
Oh.
He was actually singing the lyrics.
Oh.
And then that was like an afterthought almost, like they dubbed over it, but you can hear it clearly in the background.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, I think I do need to watch this fan dub now, because that sounds interesting. Because it is kind of weird, because in the Japanese version I was watching, they have the translated, like, lyrics to the song, even though it's, like, Animalese gibberish. So, I mean, there are actual lyrics to the song he's singing, but, like, yeah, it's just, like, his weird computerized voice that he has in the game in the middle of a movie, so it's just, like, very strange now that he has an actual speaking voice. But, yeah, so, and I like the whole part where they find the giant dinosaur fossil in the cave. I mean, that was kind of a nice little full of wonder moment.
That just pissed me off, though, because they're like, we found it! Oh no, we can't
they get it.
I was like, what the fuck?
They start making plans to excavate it by the end of the movie. And that kind of reminds me that it's like, this movie does feel like a lot of like small little vignettes, like just little moments, and there's not a lot of through plots. The only kind of two recurring things that happen in this movie is that fuck, why can I not remember anybody's name now? Who's the owl that runs the museum?
Blathers,
that's it. I want to call him Brewster. It's like, no, Brewster runs the coffee shop. Yeah, Blathers is going on early in the movie about, it's like, oh, we want to complete the Seismosaur exhibit in our museum, and that happens to be the fossil they find. But like the big overarching thing is that I keeps going out to the beach and finding bottled messages, which, you know, anyone who has played Animal Crossing knows they're from Gulliver before he crashes his ship at the end of the movie. Which is so weird because he sends like a map in a bottle, and it's like, all right, you need to plant pine trees in all of these spots, which is like 100 fucking spots.
Yeah.
Because during the Winter Festival they put lights on all the pine trees, so he's like basically building out a pattern with all the pine trees and lights, and apparently it leads a bunch of aliens to them.
He was building a pentagram to summon the devil.
I mean, I don't think it's that much, but and I think that's what really took me out of the movie the most, is that the fact that this movie, despite the fact being about a little girl living with anthropomorphic animals, seemed very like down to earth and realistic, and then just like the last 5 minutes of this movie is like, oh yeah, by the way, there's aliens in the sky.
By the way, there's CG aliens in here. And I was like, what the fuck?
And it's really like awful, not even trying CG.
Yeah, I didn't like that. And then they're like, here's a CG head of the girl, and that was really weird.
Because they save a weird like metallic alien thing.
Yeah, I was like, this isn't in the game. Who are you trying to fool?
And okay, and I feel like the tone of this movie is really kind of all over the place. And again, because it's like, it feels like a series of shorts. So like, we were talking about, like, there's a scene in the movie, because you spend most of the movie with like I and Rosie and Margie are like best friends and they do everything together. And then just abruptly, it goes to a scene where it's like, hey, by the way, Margie just moved away and didn't tell you.
Alright, well, the fandom that I watched was split up into 2 parts.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start up the second part, she moved away. So it kind of felt okay to me to start it up and be like, what? She's moving away? Because it felt like it was like episode 2 and time's passed. But I guess if you're watching it completely full, then it's a little abrupt.
Oh, it's completely abrupt. And like, again, it's one of those things that makes perfect sense in the context of a game. Because that's what happens in the game, is that your neighbors will just up and leave. And they'll just send you a letter like, hi, by the way, I moved out. You know, whatever.
It was too sad to tell you.
Exactly. So that happens in the game, but in this one where you're like knowing these characters and you're watching their relationships develop, the fact that she just like up and leaves without telling her best friend just seems kind of weird. And when I said that the tone of this movie is all over the place, they try to have this like really sad moment where like Ai is like crying because her best friend just left. And it immediately follows up with that scene where they're digging pitfalls and people are falling in the hole. Yeah. So it's like you're trying to follow up this like really kind of sad, tense moment, and you immediately cut to this really goofy moment.
And then cherry pie.
God, the fucking cherry pie metaphor. I don't remember what that was about. It's like Margie and
get a piece of my pie.
Yeah, Margie and I have this moment, I guess, where they're like picking cherries off the trees, and they're like something about how cherry pie is hard to make or something, and like they use cherry pie as a metaphor for achieving your dreams or something. I don't know. It was a very dumb metaphor, but I feel a lot of this like is okay because it's very much directed at kids. It's a very much a little kids movie.
A kids movie that you've watched 3 times.
A kids movie. I have watched a lot of kids movies multiple times. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of these like simplistic metaphors and like weird slapsticky goofy stuff that they do is like, it's very okay for small school children who probably went and saw this at the time. But, you know, it's also good for, you know, the fans of Animal Crossing because, you know, they do cover pretty much every aspect of, you know, a standard game that you would go through. I feel like, honestly, were this more of a TV show rather than a movie, I think I would like it a lot better. Because you could like fit like 3 shorts into a half-hour episode and call it a day and just do that. And it would feel just as coherent. But yeah. And I don't want it to seem like that I'm bagging on this movie. I actually really do like this movie, and I do like to watch it every now and then because it's just a cozy little movie to relax to. It's inoffensive. It's, you know, it has a pretty good pace to it.
I was extremely offended.
Well, you're just touchy.
Because Anka wasn't.
Because your animal waifu wasn't in this movie?
Exactly. She's the best, okay?
Well, my favorite neighbor didn't even exist yet, so... Yeah, so I don't know. And I'd honestly be okay with like if Nintendo decided like, hey, we're gonna make a new anime, we're gonna make like New Leaf the show, and it's just like a bunch of stupid little cutesy adventures with the villagers, and I'd be fine with that.
They have like 4 comics.
Yeah, make those
4
into
mangas. So
make that into a show. Do that. But yeah, so I think if you're not a fan of Animal Crossing, I don't know how much you're going to get out of this movie because, again, like a lot of it really depends like on you knowing how the mechanics of the game work, and like if you know how the game works, then you're more accepting of like the kind of random way the world works. But if you are a fan of Animal Crossing, well, you probably watched this already. But if you haven't, I don't know. I think it's worth a watch at least once.
I'm a fan of Animal Crossing. I never watched
Well, there you go. And then Kyle did. So, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Um,
and then I played it afterwards. It was wild.
I actually did too. Like,
I lived
yeah.
it.
Like, as soon as I got done watching the movie, it's like, man, I haven't checked on New Leaf in a while. And then I got it and it was like, you've been gone for 8 months. I was like, yeah, that seems about right. But, yeah. So, I like this movie. I think it's a cute movie. And if you're a fan of Animal Crossing and haven't seen this before, I think give it a watch. It's not hard to track down. So, watch the English version or the Japanese. I might have to rewatch this in English now since I've never seen it.
English is great because they have different voices, like English accents.
I mean, watching it in English means I can look away from the screen every now and then and still understand what's going on.
Captain was like, "Yar, I'm a pirate. I talk like a pirate."
That is kind of cool.
Like, that's cool.
It would be interesting to know like how they interpret like how each character would talk in English. Because I don't know, it's hard for me to, and I feel kind of bad about this. Like in English voice acting, I can like pick out like, oh, okay, that character is played by this person and such. But with Japanese, like I honestly can't tell anybody apart. And
racist.
I maybe a little bit. I don't know. I feel bad that I can't. But like, I don't know. When I'm watching anime, there's young girl voice, there's young boy voice, there's old man voice, and like I know there are specific people to this, and I'm sure people who are more in anime could easily pick these people apart, but I can't. So, and I feel bad about that.
Like, that's the lady that played Goku.
Exactly. Stuff like that. But so yeah, I like this movie. It's a cozy movie. And yeah, go play Pocket Camp when it comes out today. I'm sure it'll be fun.
Shell out some money for it.
I'm not giving them any money. I'm going to give them the same amount of money I've given Pokemon Go, and that's none.
Oh my God.
Kyle, is there anything you want to say to the lovely people before we get off here?
I watched a movie.
You sure did, buddy. I'm proud of you. So yeah, how about this week in the comments? Tell us, if you're a fan of Animal Crossing and like what your favorite part of it, like what's your favorite thing to do in Animal Crossing?
And who your favorite
villager tell us who your favorite villager is, because there's like 100, there's like
for
a bunch of them, so I'm sure everyone will have someone different.
For sex and for protect.
I don't have anything for that. Okay. I'm speechless. Anyway, Nintendo's gonna flag this. Alright guys, well that does it for this week, and this will be our last show before Thanksgiving happens, so I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving if you live here in America. And we will be back next week with some surprises, maybe. Who's to say? Some Thanksgiving treats, perhaps. You'll just have to tune in and find out. Like that, like you do. All right. Thank you guys all for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Ink and Paint Club podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can catch a new episode every week. Also be sure to follow us on our Facebook and Twitter so you can keep up with the show. Links are in the description. We'll see you next week.